And welcome to the 2023 Locked On NHL Mock Draft presented by the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Gil Martin, one of the hosts of Locked On NHL, and today we will bring you picks 22 to 32 of the first round, courtesy of the local hosts of the Locked On NHL Network, paired with analysis of each selection by Hadi Kalakeche of Locked On NHL Prospects. So, we are going to wind down the first round right now, and we start with the Philadephia Flyers on another one of those much-traveled picks.
With the 22nd overall pick in the Locked On NHL Mock Draft, the Philadephia Flyers select Andrew Cristall, forward from the Kelowna Rockets in the WHL and good buddies with Connor Bedard. At 5'10", a left winger, has a really great shot, terrific on the power play. He's tricky around the net. He's a good skater. The question is, can he be a second liner? Maybe. Definitely a third liner, but I think he could be a second liner. He really has a really good feel for his offensive game. The stick and puck control, I think, is excellent. And so I feel like if he has the right line mates, you can have a really good offensive player there. So again, solid wrist shot, scores a lot. He had 39 goals and 95 points this year. That's who the Flyers are going to take.
And Russ Cohen of Locked On Flyers going with Andrew Cristall of the Kelowna Rockets. Your thoughts on this pick?
Yeah, so for me, Cristall is great value here at 22nd. He's the type of player who's got a high-end elite skill set. The hockey sense is off the charts, really aware of his surroundings at all times, scans the ice really well. And on top of that, he's got a powerful shot and great playmaking ability about him. So a lot of value there in terms of the skill set itself. Now, it's just a matter of upping that consistency, and that's why he's dropped off so far. I still have him at 11th overall in my personal ranking, so I'm still high on his value there. But the consistency needs to come. There are some games where he disappears from the map, and on Kelowna, if you disappear from the map, you're noticed because there isn't much support there. So definitely something he needs to work on, and I think getting through to a bigger program, a better program that's in which he'll be better surrounded, will help out in that sense.
Sounds good. And next up on the clock, the New York Rangers making their first pick of this draft.
With the 23rd pick in the Locked On NHL Mock Draft, the New York Rangers select Daniil But, right winger, and left winger, Lokomotiv Yaroslavl. We are rolling the dice with this pick. But is largely considered one of the most polarizing players available in the 2023 NHL Draft. True boom or bust pick, if ever there was one. But he does check a lot of boxes for the New York Rangers. They need more size. He's 6'5", 203 pounds. They need a right winger. I still consider that to be, the biggest weakness on the New York Rangers currently, and he plays right wing as well as left wing. They need a sniper. This kid can shoot the puck very well. It is certainly a risky pick, but at number 23, when you've got somebody available with the kind of size and skill combination that But possesses, when there's a player with this much upside that's available at this point in the draft, I got to take that chance on behalf of the New York Rangers and go ahead and draft Daniil But at number 23.
So John Chick of Locked On New York Rangers making a move for a winger here. Donnie But from Russia, and your thoughts of this pick?
Yeah, so Daniil But is a strange one because he's one of those players who you never know what you're going to get from him on a game-by-game basis. One game, he's going to be scoring goals and finding open space and working off the puck. Other times, he's just going to be a playmaker for his team. And then some other games, he's getting out-muscled by 5'10" defenders in the corner, and despite his size. So it's really it's hard to get a full read on him. I still think he's a better value player in the second round, given how unpredictable he is and how hard it's going to be to kind of solidify his profile as a player and get some consistency out of him. But the skill set is there. It's just a matter of making him better at using his mechanics and not relying exclusively on his size in order to win pucks.
So the Nashville Predators are next on a pick acquired from the Edmonton Oilers.
With the 24th pick in the Locked On Podcast Network's 2023 NHL Mock Draft, the Nashville Predators select Gavin Brindley, forward from the University of Michigan. Preds fans are absolutely going to fall in love with this guy if he comes to Smashville. He's 5'9", about 170 pounds, but plays like he thinks he's 6'5", 220. He's like the Scrappy-Doo of the NHL draft this year. Despite his size, this guy has a high motor. He forechecks extremely well. He's not afraid to mix it up in the defensive zone and really put pressure on defenders. He is exactly the type of player that Andrew Brunette wants for this new look Nashville Predators team. He played as a freshman in Michigan last year, and despite being buried on a team that had the likes of Adam Fantilli and Luke Hughes, a lot of high-end NHL talent, he stood out and was one of the Wolverines' best players at the end of the season. And I think the size is maybe the only reason that he has fallen this far in the mock draft. A lot of people think maybe he can become a Braden Point type player. Some other people think there's a little bit of Brad Marchand to his game, but either way, the Predators, I think, are going to find a great role for Gavin Brindley on their team.
And this is an interesting pick. Nick Morgan of Locked On Predators going with Gavin Brindley, a forward from the University of Michigan.
Yeah, I love this pick for Nashville. There's not a better rush defender among forwards in this draft than Gavin Brindley. The amount of times that he covered for Luke Hughes during the season and stood hand for him at the offensive blue line in order to block a rush from even starting, while Luke Hughes was working his magic in the offensive zone. That's really the type of profile you're getting out of him. But especially the fact that he's got the offensive skill set, and he proved it more and more as the year went on, with injuries and all that happening in Michigan, gave him an opportunity to work his way up into the top six and make an impact. And boy, did he ever. Really solid two-way forward, despite his size, works really well to win back pucks for his team. High-end motor. So there's a lot to love here for Brindley, for Nashville. I think is going to be great value for them in the future.
All right, next up, the St. Louis Blues are back on the clock.
With the 25th pick in the NHL Draft, the St. Louis Blues select Charlie Stramel. Charlie Stramel is on the hockey team of University of Wisconsin. He is the center, weighing in at 216 pounds with a height of 6'3". Charlie is a big guy. He makes a big impact on the ice. He is somebody that is a little bit overlooked when it comes to this draft, but at the end of the day, I think he would really benefit being on St. Louis. He is a bigger guy with a lot of energy and mobility, and this is why the St. Louis Blues should select Charlie Stramel with their 25th overall pick.
Haley Simon of Locked On Blues sticking with the college forwards, Charlie Stramel of Wisconsin. And first of all, what position do you think he fits in with best, and how does he fit in with the Blues?
He's hard to read simply because there's a distinct lack of skating ability in this game. I think at the end of the day, he still goes and plays center because of his ability to hold on to pucks and make plays through pressure. But the main concern with me for Stramel here is he plays in a program that has a lot of difficulty winning games, a program that has a lot of difficulty playing young players as well. So Wisconsin's going to be a bit of a difficult run for him in his development. And if he can get into a better program that improves his prognostics a tiny bit, maybe St. Louis can nudge him in a different direction or force a trade to a different organization. But as he stands, Stramel for me is a very risky pick at this range because at best, you're getting a middle six center, and at worst, you're not getting an NHLer out of him. So it's just a matter of how much you believe in his ability to make an NHL lineup. So we'll see where that goes, but it's tough to determine as we speak right now.
All right, the San Jose Sharks are up next.
With the 26th pick in the Locked On NHL Draft, the San Jose Sharks are proud to select Tom Willander, defenseman from Rogel BK of the SHL. After adding a dynamic piece in Michkov at pick number 4, the Sharks continue to overhaul their defense core, adding a right-handed shot who's a great skater and has a non-stop motor. Willander still has to iron out his offensive tools, but the baseline of a competitive physical defenseman fits what Mike Kerr is looking for in a prospect. Willander is expected to go to the Boston University next season, where he could continue to develop his offense over the next few seasons. If Willander hits his potential, the Sharks might have found their next great two-way defenseman.
So J.D. Young of Locked On Sharks with the 26th pick, going defense. Tom Willander, your thoughts about this pick?
Yeah, Verlander is fantastic defensively. He's basically, if you missed out on David Reinbacher and you want a David Reinbacher, you've got Tom Verlander right here. Great value at this stage. I'd be very surprised if he's even available here. But if the Sharks are able to get a solid shutdown defenseman with elite skating ability and transition ability as well, Verlander's your guy. I mean, he's going to bring a lot of value to making sure that your defensive zone is covered, that rushes are covered, that the opposing team will have a lot of trouble getting the puck into your zone and creating chances off the rush. Verlander's your guy for that. So I love this pick here for San Jose at 26 overall.
All right, sounds like a solid pick there. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Buying tickets to your favorite events shouldn't be stressful. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater near you. With killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guarantee, you could stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for the fun that you'll have. Game Time is the place for last-minute tickets. Forget planning months in advance. Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the day of the event, and you can get exclusive flash deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. And the Game Time guarantee means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you with 110% of the difference. Snag the tickets without the stress with Game Time. Just download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Today's episode is brought to you by Bird Dogs. Bird Dogs make you look good. They have stretch khaki shorts that are designed to fit slimmer through the thigh and leg, which give you a truly sculpted look. They fit way better than regular shorts that are usually made of a stiff, restricting cotton. Bird Dogs aren't like that at all. They are so comfortable, and yet they give you the support you need for a workout, and they look so good, you don't just have to wear them to work out. You can wear them out on the town as well. They use an anti-stink sweat wicking fabric that keeps you cool and dry all day long. So go to birddogs.com/LockedOnNHL to get a free Yeti-style tumbler with your offer. That's birddogs.com/LockedOnNHL for your free Yeti-style tumbler. You won't want to take your Bird Dogs off. We promise you. Next up, the Colorado Avalanche.
With the 27th pick in the Locked On NHL mock draft, the Colorado Avalanche select defenseman Mikhail Gulyayev from the KHL and the NHL out in Russia. Now, for the Avalanche, what was once a very robust and deep prospect pool, in the last few years, it really dwindled down to a very shallow prospect pool. So they need players. They need new prospects. And it doesn't mean they just go out and pick the best available player. They still have to pick the right guy. And Gulyayev could definitely be that guy. He's a little bit undersized for a defenseman, but he is the best offensive defenseman in this draft. And we all know how much the Avalanche love their offensive defensemen and the league at large, really, with guys like Bo Byram and obviously Cale Makar. He definitely fits the profile. He is a speed demon out on the ice. And like I say, he's got great offensive ability and good defensive ability, which should only improve as the years go on and the Avalanche get him into their system.
So our friend Chris Maselli of Locked On Avalanche, continuing with another defenseman here, Russian Mikhail Gulyayev. I hope I came close to pronouncing that right.
You got that right. Yep.
All right, there we go. See, studying Russian history pays off. He goes to the Colorado Avalanche. Your thoughts on Gulyayev?
I like this pick. Gulyayev brings a lot of mobility to the blue line, and just in general, you're very hard pressed to find a better puck mover in this draft than Gulyayev. Really good at finding his outlets, hitting them hard and accurately, and doesn't really settle for the first option he sees. He's comfortable finding second or third options. So I like that kind of element of his game. If only he would use his mobility to benefit his defending even more, because he tends to pinch hard to get himself out of plays. But if he could just use his mobility in a more controlled way and not try to skate everywhere, it would really help his game. So working that out of his game might get you a top 4 defenseman out of Gulyayev. So that's great value at 27 for Colorado.
All right. Good pick right there by the Avs. The Toronto Maple Leafs up next on the clock.
And with the 28th pick in the Locked On NHL 2023 Mock Draft, the Toronto Maple Leafs are proud to select out of the SHL center Oscar Fisker Molgaard. What we like here about Molgaard is, he's a player that brings effort, speed. He can play a center. He found a way to make it to the SHL full-time as a 17-year-old. Now going as an 18-year-old in this draft. There's a lot of room for this prospect to grow, right? Effort is never a question for him. He's able to handle the puck in tight spaces, good along the boards, good on the cycle. These are things, intangibles that the Leafs really have valued with prospects. Now, where does he potentially project? Many say he could be, at worst, a third-line center in the NHL, but if he reaches his potential, maybe that could be a top 6 role, whether on the wing or at center. There is still obviously some work to be done, to produce more at a higher offensive rate, to show that he has elite offensive skills if he wants to be in a top 6 role. The Leafs do desperately need to replenish a little bit of their depth at center when it comes to their prospects. So this is why Fisker Molgaard will be one of those players to look at later in the draft, depending on where he slots. Some have him, bumping up a little more impressed with his performance at the World Championships. Some see him maybe going later in the first round. So he is definitely someone to consider when the Toronto Maple Leafs go up with their pick at 28th overall.
So Dave Morisuti of Locked On Leafs going with forward Oscar Fisker Molgaard. Your thoughts about this addition to Toronto, and where would he fit in the Leafs style and lineup?
Yeah, so he screams middle 6 forward to me, either at center or at wing. High-end intensity, great motor, great mobility as well, really good skater. On top of that, his defensive game is solid and refined and advanced. And he's got a decent enough skill set that I think that he could be a 50-point scorer in his prime at the NHL level. So for me, this is great value at 28th. He would go about in this range for me, given the fact that there are, I'm a big upside guy. So I love when a player shows flashes of elite ability and playmaking, goal scoring, all that. I wouldn't peg Fisker Molgaard as that kind of profile of player, but he's definitely got everything in order to make the NHL and stick to it. So I think that the Leafs are getting a typical contenders pick in Fisker Molgaard here at 28th overall.
All right, there we go. Up next, once again, the St. Louis Blues.
With the 29th overall pick, the St. Louis Blues select defenseman Cameron Allen. Cameron is 190 pounds and 5'11". He is from Canada, and the thing about Cameron is, while he is only 18, he is somebody that I don't think will need a lot of time to develop to be NHL ready. So this is why the St. Louis Blues should select with 29th overall, Cameron Allen.
So the Blues back on the clock, a pick they acquired from Dallas, and Haley Simon of Locked On Blues going defense here from the Guelph Storm, Cameron Allen. And, the Blues could use some help on D. Does Allen fit the bill down the road?
The issues I have with Cam Allen are very much similar to the issues I have with Etienne Morin. I've never seen a more trigger-happy defenseman in the OHL that yet categorically refuses to change the angle on his shot. He takes every shot immediately the moment the puck lands on his stick, and it's been a bit of a headache to watch this year. He's also one of those aggressive pinchers who tends to take himself out of plays at times, so I'm concerned with the amount of urgency that's in his game and if he's able to reel that in. But the skill set is definitely there. That's something you can say about Allen that you can't really say about Etienne Morin. Is he's got the high end, he's got a booming shot, great hands, solid skating. He's a really physical player as well. So he brings a lot of elements that if you can get his hockey sense up to par, you're getting a really good defenseman here. But it's definitely a risk at this range.
All right. Next up, the Carolina Hurricanes.
With the 30th pick in the 2023 NHL Draft, the Carolina Hurricanes select Quentin Musty, left wing of the Sudbury Wolves. Quentin has really good vision. He's also a really, really good playmaker that will fit well into the Hurricane system. He is great at creating space for his own shot. He also has the size to be a really good power forward. The Carolina Hurricanes are obviously great at developing power forwards. Just look at Andrei Svechnikov, and heck, even their head coach Rod Brindamore. He has the size for that at 6'2", 192 pounds. So again, he can be a great power forward that will fit well into the Hurricanes system. The one thing he will need to work on is his consistency, but he is going to be in a really good spot to develop himself with that with the Hurricanes. Next on the clock is the Montreal Canadiens.
Jared Ellis of Locked On Carolina Hurricanes going with a forward, Quentin Musty from the Sudbury Wolves. Your thoughts about the Canes pick here in our mock draft?
I think this is a steal of the draft. Very clearly. I mean, Musty has a top 5 skill set in this class if he works out the way he can. Now, his work off the puck needs a lot. He's going to need to come a long way off the puck, but he's got the trifecta of stick handling, scoring, shooting, and passing ability that you can very hardly rival with in this draft class. He's also a big body who can become a power forward in the future. He's not there yet, but he's got the upside and the potential in order to make that a part of his game. So I'm just so not surprised that the Carolina Hurricanes get another steal. I mean, that seems to be their mantra in every draft class. So yeah, no, great value here. And a guy who does need some work. He's very raw, but if he works out, could be a top liner.
All right, next up, the Montreal Canadiens.
Welcome back once more, and with the 31st overall pick in the Locked On NHL Mock Draft, the Montreal Canadiens are proud to select from the Sherbrooke Phoenix of the QMJHL, Ethan Gauthier, right winger, and this was a good fit for the Montreal Canadiens here. We look at his offensive upside year to year. We look at the talent in the Canadiens' backyard, and there were a lot of potentially good players here, but I look at Gauthier, having watched a lot of Joshua Waugh this year, one of the other Canadiens prospects, and seeing a lot of things that fit exactly the kind of mold that the Canadiens are going for here. And it's hard to argue against taking that person from your backyard. We know the Canadiens thrive on this, and we could not be happier to add another extremely talented prospect out of the QMJHL, one they're very familiar with. And with the 32nd overall pick, the Vegas Golden Knights are on the clock.
Montreal on the clock next with a pick they acquired from the Florida Panthers and Scott Matla of Locked On Canadiens, going with Ethan Gauthier of the Sherbrooke Phoenix, a forward. Your thoughts on Gauthier?
Ethan Gauthier is about the safest pick you can make here. He's the ultimate. I call him a glue player. He just glues any line together that he plays on. Really good off the puck. Really good in terms of his physicality. You're very rarely going to find a more physical player in this range of the draft than Ethan Gauthier. And he's got a very solid base of playmaking and hockey sense. So he's the type of guy who just regularly makes his teammates better and ups their quality. So to get that at 31st overall is good. I don't think this is the type of player that you're ever going to see play on a first line. And if he does, it's for stints while there's injuries. But definitely the type of player you can stick in your middle six and you know he's going to make everyone around him better.
Good to get that late in the first round. We close out round 1 with the defending Stanley Cup champions, the Vegas Golden Knights.
With the 32nd pick in the Locked On Mock NHL Draft, the Vegas Golden Knights are proud to select Andrew Gibson. Gibson currently plays in the OHL with the Greyhounds. Gibson comes in at 6'3", a little over 190 pounds. The Vegas Golden Knights thrive on having big defensemen. Gibson can possibly develop into a solid two-way skater, such as a Pietrangelo, maybe a smooth skating ability of someone like Shea Theodore, or possibly morph into a stay-at-home type of defenseman, or like a Zach Cloud. So we'll see how Gibson does for the Vegas Golden Knights.
And with the final pick in this round, Chris Golick of Locked On VGK going defenseman Andrew Gibson from the Sioux Greyhounds. Is he worthy of this final pick in the first round?
This is a tough one. Andrew Gibson, I have a lot of trouble seeing being worth a first-round pick. Now, obviously, he's a right-handed defenseman with size and physicality. Those are always at a premium, but I would steer clear until the third round on Gibson simply because there is very little to maybe no offensive upside with him. you're purely getting a shutdown defenseman, the type of guy who usually gets on a bottom pair and does a decent job on the penalty kill. But I have a very hard time seeing him being able to put up points at the NHL level, and it's going to be difficult for him to get to that point as well, due to the type of minutes that he plays in the Sioux. Mainly he's playing on the penalty kill. Mainly he's starting in the defensive zone, so he's not getting a lot of puck touches in the offensive zone to get to kind of start exploring that side of his game. So it's a head scratcher for me, but Vegas love their big physical D-man, and he definitely fits that mold.
All right, so we're through the 32 picks of round one. Let me ask you a couple of questions here, Hadi. Best value pick in this first round?
For me, it's a tie between Andrew Cristall at 22nd overall to the Flyers and obviously Quentin Musty at 30th overall for the Carolina Hurricanes. They're both in the same kind of top end tier, near the top 10 for me, just outside the top 10. So two very, very good value picks and two very different players that can work out in two very different ways. But both have insane value at where they were picked. I'm very surprised with especially Musty being available at 30. I think there's no chance that happens on draft day, but if he is available at 30th overall, there's no doubt about it. You jump on that pick.
And the biggest gamble in this first round mock draft?
So the biggest gamble would probably be Etienne Morin at 20th. It's a big, big gamble. I put Cam Allen in that conversation as well at 29th. Those two guys, they've got a lot of elements to their game that are to love, but a lot of very glaring weaknesses that need working on. So two bets that could pay off really well, but need a lot of work with really kind of hands-on development teams that are going to be working around the clock with these prospects. So if your team is the type to have dinner with their prospects once a month and that's it, steer clear. They're not your guys.
All right, one last question for you, Hadi. One player who you think will go in the first round but is not included in this mock draft?
Oh, that's going to be tough. I'd say that Jaden Perron might go in the first round, but isn't in this mock draft. Maybe another guy that wasn't included here would having a hard time thinking right now. Probably be I'd love Denver Barkey to go in the first round. I know there's no chance of that happening, but I'm sure that would be a great bet here. But a lot of the guys that have been picked here, I could very well see get picked in the first round. I don't think there were many guys that were excluded from this mock draft that we could see in the first round come draft day, but I could always be wrong. What's for sure is I think Andrew Gibson, there's a very small chance that he goes in the first round. It's not zero, given what the Vegas Golden Knights usually go for, but it's definitely a very slight chance of that happening.
All right. Well, Hadi, thank you so much. And of course, you could follow Hadi and all of his analysis on Twitter at Hadi K _scouting. And of course, on the Locked On NHL Prospect Show, which should be up and running again very shortly. So definitely look for that. Hadi knows his stuff. That does it for our Locked On NHL mock draft right here on Locked On NHL. You could get the feed. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.